All right. Combination time. Geometry into algebra. Again, this is notes. These will come in handy when we come to quizzes and tests. But a few things to make you aware of. Okay, what we're going to be dealing with in here. When you see the little square, little squares are 90-degree right angles all the time. Okay, that's just a general fact to know. That's why I put it on here. But some of the other ones we're going to have a little more in-depth talk about. For instance, here, if you have two angles that make a straight line. So for instance, if I were to know what the measure, let's try that again. The measure of angle B was, and I knew what the measure of angle A was, and we're going to do an example here in a minute where we're going to know, they have to add up to 180. So in general here, what my general rule is, an angle A plus angle B equal 180 degrees. You're like, okay, but you know, what's that mean? That's kind of general, doesn't tell me much. Okay, let's say we had a problem that looked like this. And again, this is one of those times that jotting this down is a good idea because, well, you never know. This might pop up on the next test. So let's say I get something that looks kind of like this. I see the two angles together to make a straight line, so I know they're going to make up 180. I know one of... Yeah. See, it's going to all blend for those of you that are... Yeah. Well, and some of you... Because we got to make sure, we got to keep doing it until we make sure we get it. So we get it done and get it done right.
Okay, do you think we're really going to pull out a piece of paper at work and be like, oh, hold on, let me get this?
Ooh, this is good, and I'm glad this is going to be on there. No, but let me tell you what you are going to do at work. Let me tell you what you will do at work. Maybe. You will have some times that you have to be able to problem solve with something you don't quite get. You will have situations that you have to deal with something that you really don't want to do, but you got to fight through anyway to keep your job.
What is that just babysitting?
What's that? What if you're just babysitting? Well, that even causes its own bunch of problems. You've got to be able to deal with all these different things. So that's something that when I teach math, and whoever's watching this later is going to be like, oh my gosh, he's going off on this crazy tangent. When I teach math, I always tell students the actual math is like my third or fourth priority. My first priorities are getting some of you to think a little bit, to like problem solve through something and not just depend on what's going on with my fingers as I'm doing something, looking at the phone, texting somebody, looking at a picture, whatever it is. Second is fighting through doing something you don't necessarily want to do, but you know for your greater good, in this case getting a diploma, you got to. So that's the thing I'm trying to help some of you overcome right now, because I agree with some of you. You might get sick of seeing the same thing every year. But that's why I want to get it done with and help you, so you can be done with it.
Well, I suck at it.
Well, but we're going to get you better at it.
No, you won't. Mr. Dredge, can he swing us in? So I'm...
Oh, no, we're going to get you better at this. Now, here's what we're going to do with this. So when we get focus in, that's one of the other issues. Got to focus in. So if I've got these two angles, I know if I add them up, and I know one of them's x, I know they have to add up to 180 because they make a straight line. Well, now, I can solve a one-step equation. How do I undo this 120 that I'm adding to x? Minus it, okay? And this is the stuff a lot of you are good at on the test and the quiz anyway.
Yeah, if it's set up.
But that's just it. We're going to get it where you can set it up. You're going to have all of this at your convenience.
Yeah.
You've just got to get used to it. Triangles. All the angles add up to 180. My equals kind of disappeared there. But nothing's easy when you don't pay attention half the time. Like you're worrying about poking people when they go by and jumping around and watching all that stuff. That's when we miss the stuff. That's why it's hard, okay? So here, for instance, let's say I have a triangle. And I know what two of the angles are, but I don't know the third one. Now that I've got this handy-dandy sheet to kind of help me, I'm going to look at them and say, well, I know all the angles add up to 180. So if I add up, 92 this is my example I'm putting under, because with me, when you actually have a number to look at, when you can see how it's actually going to apply, it makes more sense. So now with this,
I still don't get it. See, I'm gonna ask the question because I don't get.
that's okay, you can ask a question.
I don't get where you got 92.
No, this is just like, let's say this was a problem on the homework sheet. I'm just putting one where we can actually do some math on it, so you can actually see the example of it.
I'm just sitting here, I'm like, oh, it's just 180. There's no other numbers.
Well, no, you're always going to have some numbers with these. What I do up here is I tell you in general what the rule is, and now I'm giving a specific example of one. So just like when we do examples of equations or anything else.
What if
This-
we don't add up to 180? Exactly.
They will, because what's going to happen?
You have to figure out what they'll just be up there.
No, they're not.
Yeah, when we get to the examples, when we're doing them on the worksheet here in a minute, because on any worksheet, they're going to give you two of them. We got to find the third one is what's going to happen. So just like this, same idea. If I'm adding 148 to x, how do I undo it? Subtract it. And so I'm always going to have that ability to find what that third angle is going to be, as long as I know there's 180 degrees in a triangle. That's going to be the thing I have to know, or that I'm going to need to refer back to my note sheet, which I'm going to keep an eye on this time for. But that's kind of what we're up against with these. I mean, there's lots of stuff in geometry that comes back to these types of things. So, let me bump up a little further here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to keep going, except now we've got another thing with angles. So when I get down to the bottom here, okay, I have what's called an angle bisector. Now bisector means it cuts it in two. Just like you're cutting an orange in two or an apple in two, now I'm just cutting an angle in two. But it cuts it into two parts that are the same. So here's how this works. Because again, we like to have an example of what's going on.
Is that timeline supposed to be straight?
Doesn't have to be. Yeah, I'm not necessarily going for a right angle on this one.
Will we have to use rulers?
No. No, all of your angle stuff will be drawn ahead of time. You're not going to have to create angles and stuff like that like you would in geometry. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to, I'm going to give you some information here.
Why didn't we do right angle 90 degrees?
Because that's just basically a fact. There's nothing that we're calculating with that.
Because that would be too easy and we would all get it.
Too late.
So what we're going to do here, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
What's that?
He said thank you.
So what we're going to do is if I know the whole angle, yep,
See ya.
right here.
That's so
Okay. So if I know the whole angle's 84, okay, and these little marks mean it's being cut in half. It means they're equal. Instead of putting equals in there, they put these little markings in. If I want to figure out what the other two angles are, the little parts are, yes, but again, we're not going to keep discussing that, so you can do that out of the way. Yeah, take the stuff with. Take the stuff with. So if I wanted to find angle ABD, which is this guy, all I'd have to do is take the big angle and cut it in half, or divide it by 2. So ABD would be 42 degrees, because that's what 84 divided by 2 is. If I wanted to find my other little angle, now I should know at this point what it's going to be, because at this point, if I know this one's 42, and I know they're the same, I should know that, but if I don't, Again, I just take the big one and divide it in half. Because that's what bisect means. It means cut it in half. And I could find both of my angles that way. And I could figure out that these are each 42. But that's why I wanted to get all this stuff for you on one sheet. So when we are doing it, it's a little bit easier to work with. And then our last one with angles, before we do a little bit with segments, okay, are called vertical angles. Okay? They share a common point, like the tip of their angle. And they're equal to each other. So again, I could make those funky little curve markings on there to let me know they're the same. So anytime that I have one of these vertical angles that share a point, so like let's say I was asked to find x, well in this case I know they share that point. Oh, they have to be equal to each other, okay. And again, it's going to take some time to get the hang of this and feel it out, but again, that's why we've got this.
Where'd you get 43? We just put it in there.
It's just like, think of it this,
Well, that's
yeah.
why I'm confused. You're just putting random numbers in there.
But
I don't even know what you
Okay, well,
it's,
the problems will be set up.
yes, yes. Yeah, because the only difference is instead of having all the problems pre-written on there, I'm just having us write them as we're doing them. That's the only difference. Okay. It'll be all right. I'm telling you, it's gonna be.
No, I'm gonna fail.
No, you can't go in with a bad attitude about stuff thinking you're gonna fail already. That's called self-fulfilling prophecy. If you tell yourself you're gonna. And but that's because we continue to keep doing the same things and think something different's gonna happen. This is where we're going to do something different. Like for instance, here. Okay, this one's done already. I think this one you'll like better. Okay, on segments, we have what's called a midpoint. Well, think about that. It's the middle point. It's the middle of my segment. It cuts it into two equal pieces, so these would be the same. So here's what's going on with my example over here. I know this piece is 8. Well, this piece it says is 2x, but I know it's the same size. So whenever I get a midpoint in here, I know that these two things have to be equal to each other, because that's what a midpoint does. So what's my one step to undo multiplying x by 2? Divide, okay. See, we know the right steps. It's just, are we going to give ourselves a chance to keep pushing ahead, even if it gets tough a little bit? In a little bit. So the last one on here with our segments talks about segment length. Okay, maybe they won't give me a midpoint, but they'll tell me how long the whole thing is. Like here, they're telling me this whole thing here equals 20. If that's true, I'm going to add up the parts and set it equal to the length. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to add up the parts, x and 3x plus 4. Yeah, I gave you, that was given to us already. Gentlemen, not focusing in is not going to help you on this. There's going to be no other blame but yourselves later. Well, now here, that's a good question. What do I want to do here with my values? Since I've got them on the same side, I don't want to do it the opposite. Right, I want to combine like terms. So 1x and 3x would be 4x. And now I'm back into the situation like we've been in a lot in here at the start. That's good. Easy is good. So if I want to get the 4x by itself, how do I undo this? Minus 4. All right, all right. So what's my last step going to be? And I'm going to know x. Divide by 4. Now, here's the one thing with these. Okay, it said find x. Okay, we just did that. We'll check that one off. It said, oh. we need to find A, B, and B, C. Now, that's not going to be a bad thing, because let's look at this. What is AB? Well, AB is that part of my line, and it just equals x. Well, I know what x is. X is 4. So that's what AB is. Okay. My segment AB, if I look, it's equal to whatever x is. Okay, that's all that's here. There's no other numbers or anything else. Since I just figured out that x equals 4, that's what AB has to equal. It has to equal 4 because it equals x. If I'm trying to figure out what BC equals, okay, it says BC is equal to 3x plus 4. But I know what x is. So I'm going to substitute my 4 in where the x goes, and I'm going to figure this out. Because here's the cool thing about the geometry problems. It's a little bit different from when we do equations. Since these two pieces, A, B, and BC, add up to the whole thing, the whole segment, I know the whole thing equals 20. They told me that at the very beginning of the problem. Well then, if I know now that AB equals 4, and after I calculated it, I know now that BC is 16, 4 plus 16 is 20. I know I did it right. Now, if I added them up and they didn't add up, well, that might be a little bit of a problem. So again, this is just there when you have that moment and you go, okay, I don't remember what this is supposed to do, and you can come back and get that assistance. Okay? Now, I'm going to give assistance because I'm going to go through a chunk of these problems with you to get you off to a good start. But again, your job's going to be to finish the job and keep fighting through, not look at it and go, yeah, he did these with me, now I'm not going to do the rest of them for 3 days. That's not going to work. That's sort of like what I've got over on the board there. Insanity's doing the same thing over and over but expecting different results. Some of you think this is just going to miraculously boom and everything's going to be perfect. No, it doesn't work that way, unfortunately. Okay, so here's the actual work we're going to do with this. And I'll keep referring back to the notes as we're doing it. Okay, yeah, this one is going to be the last one in our next check. This is homework check number 4. And this will be our 4th and final assignment in this homework check that we're going to be looking at Friday. Friday.
Today, Wednesday.
Correct. So today is Wednesday. We'll be looking at this on Friday. So as we go through and do these, I start to look and I'm like, okay, first one, perimeter. Now, what's perimeter mean?
Around the outside.
Okay, we're going to add around the outside. Okay. So perimeter means we're going to add up the sides. Okay. So I look at this and I say, what do I see? Now, here's one thing I am going to do. Anytime you start seeing the measurements like meters or centimeters, stuff like that on here, I want you to cross those out, and here's why. I don't want you to think that you have to include that into an equation somehow, that somehow you're adding C's and M's and all these other things. So when I look at this, if it says add up the sides, okay, so I got 7 plus 10. Okay, we're just adding up.
So you write that there, you don't write what you got adding up there?
Well, if you can add it up off the top of your head and simplify it, you can. I'm just wanting to show everything so we see what's going on. And if I add up the sides, they should equal the perimeter that they give me. Because they're telling me how far it is around the outside. My job's to figure out what the mystery letter is, what x is going to be. So I look at this and I say, okay, now what can I do with this? Well, let's see. I see on the same side of the equals, I got like terms. I got this 7 and this 10. So I can put those together. So 17 plus 2x equals 25. Okay, because again, if they're on the same side, I can just put them together. I don't have to do an opposite. I don't have to undo anything. But now I'm at a point, okay, I want to start working on getting x by itself. So how do I undo that 17 that's not in my box? subtract. Okay, so wipe that out. 25 minus 17 is 8, because whenever we do to one side, we got to do to both. And then what's my last step going to be? And then divide. So in a lot of ways, this is the exact same thing we've been doing. Now the only other thing I've got to do with these that's a little bit different than when we're dealing with equations is, okay, you're like BC. Now what's that mean? Okay, here's my side BC. And my side BC equals 2x. But now I know what x is. So I'm just going to do a little bit of substitution. So I'm going to plug in the 4 for the x, and 2 times 4 is 8. And I'm done. Woo-hoo. And there's going to be some things on here where it tries to fool you a little bit. But we're not going to let it bother us, because we're going to have done examples of all of them. For instance, let's look at number 2. Now, number 2, you might look at that and say, wait a minute. They don't even tell me what all the sides are. Look, they say this is x and this is 10. There's nothing here. Do I just put x plus 10? No. What do I know about opposite sides of a rectangle? They're equal. So I can put an x and a 10 in those other spots because I know that's true. So now when I get to the equation, I can do one of two things. Okay? I'm going to do it fully one more time, and then we're going to start kind of, I'm not going to call it skipping a step, but we're going to simplify things a little quicker. Again, when I'm doing perimeter, I'm adding up all the sides that I see and setting them equal to whatever they tell me the perimeter is. Now again, any things on this left side that are the same, that are like terms, I need to put together. So, if I got 1x here, and I got another one there, okay, I've got 2 x's. And I have 2 plain old numbers there. Okay, I can put those together. Positive 10 and positive 10 is a plus 20. So now when it comes time to undo and work on getting my x by itself, yeah. Okay, I'm going to undo that plus 20 by minusing it. That's perfect. And what's that last step going to be? Divide. See, we've got the basics down. It's just giving ourselves a chance. Is there risk involved? Sure. It can be tough sometimes. It can. But we can do this. All right, one more on this front sheet here because I want to make sure we've done a little of everything. Because I don't want any excuses that I was trying to skim around and just do the easy ones. Let's do number 4. That looks kind of nasty. Okay, now this time we're going to do all our combo work looking at it. I know all the sides this time, so I don't have to get creative. The things that are alike, okay, so I'm going to find all my terms that have x. I'm going to get those together first. How many total x's do I have? 11. 11x. Now, when I'm combining the plain old numbers, be careful because the signs are different on some of them this time. So if I need to, and again, this isn't a bad thing, because I see some of you struggle with this and you don't go to the calculator, and I'm like, I don't understand why they're not going to the calculator. Because if that's what you need, if that's a tool you need to help you out, that's okay. So like here, I'm going to take the -8, and I'm going to subtract the 15, and I'm going to do the +4. Okay, so I've got a negative or a -19, and they tell me what the perimeter is. It's 25. Okay, so I did what I did in the first two, except I did all my combining like terms right in the shape itself. And gol dang, look at this. It's the same idea. How do I get that 11x alone?
Plus 19.
Yeah, plus the 19. Now we're starting to see what's up here. And then we're just going to divide by the 11. And you're like, oh, but I see lots of stuff coming. Okay, don't let that freak you out. We did the hard part. We got x. Once we get the hard part done and we get the x solved for, now I got to find the different sides. So I look and I go, okay, mn. Here's mn. So mn right now says that it is 3x minus 8. But I know what x is. It's 4.
Can you get a decimal there?
It's possible, but I don't think on this one.
On number 5?
Okay, we can hit that up just a second here. Actually, yes, you possibly could. I don't think you're gonna on number 5, but we'll check. Okay, we will check that out in a minute.
How y'all on number 5?
I don't know number 5. They're speedy, I guess. So I'm gonna plug in my x value, and I go, okay, 12 minus 8 is 4. Okay. And I'm just gonna work my way around. NJ, okay, I'm just gonna write down what that supposedly is. But again, I know what x is. I'm gonna plug that in here. And again, I can plug in exactly what I'm writing into the calculator if I want to. I don't care. As long as I know how to get to the answer, that's what's important. 24 minus 15 is 9. And then my last one, MJ, is 2x plus 4. And again, I know what x is, because I calculated that at the start. So 4 is 8, that's 12. Then I just double checked. Do these all add up to 25? 12 plus 9 is 21, plus 4 is 25. Woohoo!
We should do number 3 though.
We should do number 3?
Yeah, we need to do all of these.
We'll do all of them.
Yeah.
What? I'm not going to do all of them. Now, we did hear somebody saying we're having an issue with 5 and possible decimal. Is that...
On the bottom says VW and there's nothing there.
Ah, now let's think about this for a minute. Let's
But
use...
you didn't do use
But let's use number 5 as a rewind back to number 2. We've got to look at things that are similar. Now, why am I saying that 2 and 5 are similar? Well, on 2,
Because 2x matches the other
we'd only been given 2 sides, and we knew we had to put the other ones in. So my first question would be, if some of you are getting decimals, did you remember, oh yeah, this side is 2x, and this side is x plus 10. Because if I did remember that, I'd go back and I'd say, okay, so I got 2x. Okay, and these are each 1, so that'd be 3x, 5x,
Hell no.
6x,
Yeah, I definitely do.
and 10 plus 10
You a send dog, Joe.
is 20.
Got my hopes.
Where the heck did you get that from?
Did you put in your opposite sides, kind of what we'd done in number 2?
Mine says 3x plus 10.
That's the problem, because
Why? Because you're missing the side. See how that side there's nothing there? Well, that's the same measurement on that side. You just took the 2x on the other side and then
Yeah, I know.
2x.
it's just like what we were doing in number 2. Now, did you do number 2 when we were doing number 2, or were you ahead of us?
I did number 2. I didn't write all that down.
Okay, because that's some of the things we've got to start doing. We've got to put those in. Thank you. She goes, yep. Because now, and I'm just going to work on getting my x by itself. Yes, it will. Because I do my opposites, and I will get a whole number answer out. But again, This is where it comes back again to keeping focus to what we're doing and not speeding around to other things. Because a lot of times you'll see something that's similar, but if you've kind of been away for a minute, okay,
Well, I'm
well,
trying
there,
to figure out by myself to learn it by myself because I don't get what you're saying.
well, and you have that option. I think that might make it a little tougher.
I just don't get the next one.
So is 2, 6? X
Yes.
equals 6?
Uh-huh. Number 2 is x equals 6. That was true. Now, what you're going to start noticing is we've kind of got a pattern that's developing here. Because if you flip the page over,
Oh, what you doing?
if you flip the page over, okay, when we get back here, the segments, okay, the segments like we had in the note sheet are going to show up back here. Now here's what's nice. PR. Basically, they want me to tell them how far is it from one end to the other of this segment. Well, I know this is 3. Yeah. I know this is 5. Add them up.
Oh, that's all we gotta do.
That's it. That's all you got to do on that. Now, are they always just going to be the two numbers? No.
I'm 13.
Whoa, 13.
I mean
Number
2.
2.
Oh, I was going to say, holy cow,
You
I'm
put
13.
13 in red.
Okay, well, let's see. SU means this whole thing is 13. So, these two, yes. Okay, these two segments, these two, so x plus 9
Slow poke.
is the whole thing. So then, what do I have to do to get x alone? I undo the plus 9. And I get my x that way.
For number 4, I'm going to solve it.
Yes. Okay. So as I'm doing these, let's do number 4.
Can we, what happened to this page though?
Well, I'm not doing the whole packet with you. The whole idea isn't for me to do the whole homework assignment. I know how to do all of this. The idea is to try and see if we can get you started and have you guys do some. Again, they tell me how long the whole thing is. Okay, so this whole thing right here equals 19. So I gotta add the two parts together. So when I'm adding them together, I have 2n and 4n. Okay, I'm just adding up this stuff. I'm combining the like terms. Shh.
So 6n minus 5.
So we put those two and we equal them to the total.
So where's e? Oh, I see.
So now we got to figure out, yeah,
Then do you divide 6?
yes, you're both correct. We're going to add 5 first,
4. So it'll be 4.
and we're going to divide by 6, which means n equals 4. I'm with you.
RS, where's that?
Now,
Oh, that's 2n.
now we're starting to get on a roll here. So when I look here, it's like RS. Well, RS, when I look in there, it says 2n. Well, I know what n is now. It's 4. Two times 4 is 8. Then I look down a little bit, and I'm like, oh, SV. Here's what SV is. It's 4n minus 5. But I know what n is.
So that's 11.
Close. Oh, no, you're right. What am I talking about? You're right, it is 11. 4 times 4, because I'm just plugging in my n value where the variable is. I'm substituting the value in for it.
I'm gonna get number 3 though. Because how is 3x bigger than x, but it equals 20?
Is it a negative number?
Well,
Plus 17.
yeah, because let's look at this for a minute.
But
Okay.
O equals 20.
The whole thing equals 20. I'm going to add these together. So what's 3x plus 1x equal?
4.
Okay, so 4x those two together equals 20. Yeah.
Oh, I see.
You're just putting the two pieces together to get the total.
And O is 1x.
So x is whatever this is when we
X is
divide.
5.
X is 5,
And MN is 3x.
right?
And NO,
So 3 times 5. Right. Yes.
clear me.
Okay. So here's how this is going to work. Because you're like, okay, those are all that, and then they throw a thing in here. B is the midpoint of AC. Now I got to remember what midpoint is. Let's look here again. Midpoint cuts it into 2 equal pieces, which means these are going to equal each other. So my equation's basically ready to go for me. So when I see the word midpoint, I just set them equal to each other.
I didn't write my equation on the equation one.
That's okay. So now, I'm still doing the same thing. I'm still solving the equation. I'm still undoing things.
Oh, I don't get that. Oh. Wait, so if there's not an x in like 36, there's not x, so you just equal it?
If you see the word midpoint, that's when you're going to equal them. Yeah, midpoint basically means equals. So I can get my x value. So then I'm going to start looking for the pieces. And I'm going to go, okay, so AB is what I'm looking for first, and that says 6x minus 12. But again, I know what x is.
So that'd be.
How do you do that? How do you do that?
Wouldn't that be
I had
4?
36.
48
Oh,
minus 12 would be 36. Now, here's the first time this has happened. We're always given the whole thing. We're not being given the whole thing this time. I know that AB is 36.
Oh, we don't do AC.
Okay, hang on. I know that BC is 36. They told me that already. AC is the whole thing. So it's AB plus BC. Because AC is the whole thing. I'm just adding the two pieces together.
36 plus 36.
Because AB is 36.
What?
BC is 36.
That's easy.
And I just put the two pieces together.
Remember. Oh my gosh.
That's why we don't just do this for one day. We do it over time. So here's what I think you're capable of knocking out right now. Okay? That first page, knock it out. We'll talk some more about this second page tomorrow as we kind of keep going with these. But for tomorrow, I have that first page ready, and we'll finish up some more then.